Hi, friends. I'm Christiana Gaudet. Welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome to another free live tarot webinar, Three Cards of Karma. It's nice to see so many of you already here. Thank you for being here. And if you happen to be watching in archive, that is fine too. We welcome you as well. I do want to ask you to like this video and make sure that you are subscribed to this channel. All right, so what I need you to do right now, whatever deck you happen to be working with, is to go ahead and pull out three cards. That would be the Wheel of Fortune, Justice, and Judgment. I cannot tell you the number of times people have said to me, I have such a hard time with the differences in interpretation between justice and judgment. Has that been an issue for you? Well, after this class, I promise you, it no longer will be. So go ahead and get out those three cards, Wheel of Fortune, Justice, and Judgment. We're going to talk about what they have in common. And we're going to talk about the ways in which they are different. Before we do that, I just want to share with you, and I think a lot of you already know this, that I am making a bit of a change. Many of you know that I have for quite some time, I started before the pandemic, but really picked up speed during the pandemic. I have been doing four regular live streams on my Facebook business page, Christiana Gaudet, every week. Starting this Monday, I am moving those lives here to YouTube. I have been archiving them here, but I'm going to start doing them live here. Now, I've only scheduled the first one, which is this Monday. It is your three-card weekly reading, and you can find the link for that in the three-card weekly reading playlist. The next one will be on Thursday. It's our Tarot Topics newsletter recap. I'll have the link in that playlist very soon. On Friday, the Friday weekly wrap up. And on Saturday, your Saturday Psychic Sampler, where you can ask questions on anything at all. I will make sure that the links for each of those are in those playlists. Right now, the only link that is ready is the one for Monday. That will be 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, Monday morning. That's tomorrow morning. So if you can, please do join me. We will use the Mystic Mondays Tarot. We'll do three cards for the collective for the week, and then I'll do individual cards for the week ahead for everyone who's here, just like I've been doing on Facebook. So we're keeping, the stream pretty much the same. We're just doing it from YouTube, and I really appreciate all of you being here with me on my YouTube channel. All right, so three cards of karma. Why do we call these three cards, the Wheel of Fortune, Justice, and Judgment, the three cards of karma? Well, I don't know. I may be the only person in the world who does call them that. But it's interesting to note that in most tarot books, the word karma will come up as a keyword for all three of those cards. And in some decks, the card name has actually been changed to karma. And so today we're going to talk about what is karma to begin with. How do we see that in each of these cards? And how are these cards each individual, different from that? So it's going to be a deep dive into these three cards. And we're going to start with a definition of karma, which you see right here on the screen now. So karma as a concept, where are we going to put that? We'll put that right there. That's fine. Okay. Karma as a concept comes from Hinduism and Buddhism. It is the sum of a person's actions in this and in previous states of existence, and it is viewed as deciding the fate in future existences. So it is the idea of destiny or fate as effect from cause, cause and effect. Notice that in this definition, it doesn't specifically say if you do good things will happen to you. If you do bad things will happen to you. Most of us have lived long enough on the planet to recognize that that's not necessarily so. It's not necessarily about good and bad. It's just about cause and effect, how energy follows us throughout our lives. I often see in the Western world people talking about karma as like universal revenge. And I don't love that. I don't love that concept. I don't love the concept of karma as revenge for a lot of different reasons. And it's not about vengeance, right? It is about how energy moves forward. That's how I see it. Lisa says very clearly, most people have the wrong idea about karma in the Western world. Right, you've seen that meme. You call it karma, I call it ha ha ha. No, that's not what it's about. And if you do a deep study of it, there's like 12 rules of karma. And it's deep and it's significant. And so, maybe as homework, I would say, let's all look up those 12 rules of karma. So I would love to hear any thoughts that you have about karma. And while you're getting those in, let me just say hi to some of the people who are here today. Smile Soul 20, nice to see you. Lacey, glad you're here. Mercedes, I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time. It's good to see you. Jake, who we know is Robin, so happy to see you. I feel like I haven't seen you in a long time. Marion K. Taro, happy to see you. Melanie, glad you're here. Anna, glad you are here. Karen Maynard, happy to see you. Jackie Scott, glad you're here. Irene, happy to see you. And let's see, Angela, glad you're here. Chrissy, happy to see you. Clumsy Clairvoyance, glad you're here. Ashley, glad you're here. Peggy Lou, nice to see you. Lisa, happy you're here. Victor, glad you're joining us. Nicole, happy to see you. La Morena, please educate the Westerners. I am a Westerner. I'm not sure I can. I just know that not being Hindu, not being Buddhist, not being from that culture, I can't fully understand it. But I also know that this is a word that has been coming up in tarot, which is Western occult tradition, for some time. And so today we're going to try to understand it. And so we're going to use whatever weak ass understanding of karma we happen to have to understand these cards, but we're also going to use these cards to try to understand karma. So, any ideas that you have to share about karma? I think about the John Lennon song, Instant Karma is Gonna Get You. I love that song, but I also feel like that has led to our Western misconception. Lisa says, I think the concept of karma comes forth more in astrology than tarot. Can you give us an example of how that is and what that is? I am all ears on that. But if I could play with that, I would say it has to do with as above, so below. When we think about astrology, we think about how the movements of the planets are causing something to happen on Earth, and that's not really true at all. It's one reflects the other. And so perhaps, and maybe I'm off on a tangent and this is not what you meant at all, Lisa. I don't know. Let me know. But perhaps it is just a sense of the interconnectedness of energy. Lumberade, I know you'll definitely help though. Man, I am doing my best. Let me tell you, I am gonna try. So I am open to hear your thoughts and your understandings of karma now and throughout our time together. This is an hour-long class. And again, I'm so grateful to everyone for joining. So as I move forward, go ahead and continue to put in there whatever you have to say. Let's see. Melanie, karma seems to be evident as a teaching in the repetition of non-productive behaviors in this life. Learn or be stuck. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how we move forward. Lisa, my chart has an intercepted sixth house. Sixth house is about service. Astrology says I failed others in past lives. Interesting. Okay, fair enough. Let's see. Mercedes, I see karma more of you reap what you sow, eventually having to face up to the consequences of your actions throughout lifetimes. Anna, I always think of karma related to previous lives and links we formed then that continue in following lives. And you know, the first time I heard about that, it was actually, I had a little shop in Putnam, Connecticut, and I had hosted a reader. I was the primary reader in the shop, duh. But I had hosted a reader, and one of my clients had gone to see this reader, and on her way out, she had been going through a difficult divorce with a man named Mike. And what this reader said to her is, the karma between Mike and me is closed. We don't have to deal with each other in this lifetime anymore, suggesting that part of that marriage was some holdover from a past life. And, you know, here's what I don't like about this idea is some people will see it as, well, my life sucks today because I'm being punished for some unknown thing I did in a past life. And I don't usually think it's about punishment. Someone here used the term consequences. That feels better. But the idea that, you know, energy goes forward in one way or the other, karma might simply mean connection, right? There's a connection between what's happening now and what happened before. It's not necessarily about good and bad, punishment or reward. Okay. Peggy Lou, isn't astrology about the energy of the planets? I think so, sure. Cynthia, karma are lessons that we have to experience in order to grow and improve as souls. Our lives are like school that we have to learn, and if we don't do it well this time, we bring that less. Right, right. Marion, karma, particularly with a person's Saturn placement, Saturn being the lord of karma. Interesting. And Lisa says, so in this lifetime, my focus is on service to others. Right, I get it. Oh, Cynthia, lessons to the next life. We bring lessons to the next life. But that all necessitates a belief in reincarnation, which I do have. I do have that belief, but not everyone does. Is it possible to believe in karma without believing in reincarnation? It's interesting to note that the cultures out of which the concept of karma comes do believe in reincarnation. So it does kind of go together, doesn't it? Okay, La Morena, all dharmic religions have karma by definition. That point about astrology is really good. Yep. Karen, I always think of karma being related to life lessons. That seems to be a recurrent theme here. People seem to see it that way. La Morena, when people say karma, they're thinking more of the biblical reap what you sow. I see the similarities, but I think we can keep those concepts separate. Yeah, I'm with you, man. You know why? Because when we talk about the Abrahamic religions versus the Dharmic religions, the Abrahamic religions are all about the eternal struggle of good and evil. So it becomes reward and punishment. Whereas the Dharmic religions from which karma emanates, it's not about good and evil. It's not about crime and punishment. It's not about punishment and reward. It is simply about cause and effect. And as many of you are saying, lessons. Okay, clumsy clairvoyance. I appreciate how you started off with the definition of the word. Sometimes we really need to know the true meanings of words, not just the spin we have put on them and their meaning. Okay. Wendy, hey, happy to see you. I always feel a connection between karma and the law of attraction for sure. The law of attraction as well. You reap what you sow for sure. And that's interesting because that, again, is not about punishment. It's about the energy you put out will naturally attract energy to you. Absolutely. Right, La Morena. I mean, reap what you sow is different than karma because of the whole revenge punishment angle. So we're looking at reap what you sow in two different ways. Law of an attraction way, the energy you put out comes back to you. Punishment, crime and punishment, not necessarily. And La Morena is bringing in balance here, which is going to help a lot when we get to justice. Mercedes, sometimes you help other people learn their lessons, and sometimes others we may not like help us learn our lessons. Right. Karma as connection and consequence. Mercedes, it's all what you have planned in different lifetimes. Blueprints. Okay, now you and I have talked about this before. You know, beliefs tend to stack on top of each other, and we will all bring our own sense of beliefs to understand other beliefs. So Mercedes believes in blueprints, the idea that we have made commitments and contracts before we come into this life, created these blueprints by which we live. I don't really believe that. I mean, maybe a little bit, sometimes to some extent, but not always from my perspective. And so I think there is room in this conversation for our own personal beliefs. And I think we can all bring those beliefs to this concept of karma, right? So Mercedes says it's all in what you have planned in the different lifetimes, blueprints before your reincarnation, if you believe in reincarnation, right? It's all about, what do you believe, really? Sally brings in a biblical piece, live by the sword, die by the sword, comes to mind. La Morena, you see a lot of conversations about energy connecting people in Eastern traditions as well. Reminds me of that, but I cannot speak as an authority. Yeah, neither can I. Cynthia, karma is also like an account in a bank, credit and debit and loan. Interesting. Here's where I get into trouble with that. I speak with so many people who are so pissed off because they feel like they have built up enough good karma, enough goodwill. Why aren't good things happening to me right now? Because so it's like in a bank account, you can look at your bank ledger and you can see what's in there. With this energy, you really can't. Although there is something else I would bring into this that I call spiritual currency, which is, you may not have money, but you may have garnered spiritual currency over time that will get you through. You may not have enough money to pay your rent, but you may have plenty of people who love you who will let you sleep on their couches. Is that also karma? It could be. Okay. Maria Elena, what goes around comes around. Right, and that's going to bring in the Wheel of Fortune. La Morena, karma like yin yang, not like getting young. Gotcha. Hey, Shannon Chabon, nice to see you here. Dina, our ability to not take what happens to us personally, yes, but to find the best course of action with the hand we've been dealt. Yes, I agree. La Morena, by traditional definitions, no, you cannot believe in karma without reincarnation. And the way reincarnation is seen in Dharmic religions is quite different from how West New Age Wiccans talk about it. Right. And so there's already a weird cultural disconnect because we're talking about how karma shows up as keywords and sometimes even replacement names in 3 tarot cards. And tarot does not come from the Dharmic religions. It's Western occult tradition. So the concept of karma has made its way into Western occult in a really interesting way. And we have to sort of recognize there is a disconnect there for sure. Hey, Jerry, so happy to see you here. Jerry says, karma for me is you teaching me tarot cards. Yay. So now I know how to live my life better. Yay. Sally, Celestine Prophecy. By James Redfield, I think, really made me think about karma and what it means. Good book recommendations. Okay, Mercedes, being raised Catholic, I see reincarnations as what Catholics see as eternal life. And at the end of the day, it being 2021, because we have this cultural ability to see all of these different things and read all of these different books, we do have this ability to sort of form our own personal understanding of things. And I don't think that that is necessarily bad nor appropriative. You know, growing up, going to a born again Christian school, believe it or not, can you imagine me graduating from an evangelical high school? I did. And I had fun there too, in good ways and probably not so good ways if you talk to my teachers. But anyway, one of the things that was often said is if you don't know the law, you're not judged by the law. So people who had never heard the word of Christ would not be damned for not following Christ, right? But that also gave excuse to missionaries, and that was a whole other ball of wax. But anyway, the point is, now with the internet and you know all of that, you know, which is like Gutenberg on steroids, we have the ability to see all of these different things and to learn all of these different things. And it is very interesting to see how all of these different things show up in tarot. And so while I think we do need to be careful to be respectful of specific cultures and recognize that we can't necessarily fully understand something of a culture that we haven't lived with or that is not ours, I think that there is a lot of cultural exchange that goes on here. And spiritually, to me, that feels really good, as long as it's respectful. All right, so let's move on. And let's talk about another important concept in this conversation, which is the Venn diagram of tarot understanding. And I'm going to show you a Venn diagram of 3 cards that are not the 3 cards here, because I'm challenging you to make your own Venn diagram. So if you do not already have a pen and a piece of paper handy, please get one and let me show you a Venn diagram that is about 3 other cards we've studied. If you have not taken the class, the 3 clergy cards, that's in this playlist as well, Hermit, Hierophant, and High Priestess, please do. Here is the Venn diagram here. Now, in this Venn diagram, we can see that all 3 cards have in common clergy, wisdom, and study. Each cards have some, you know, two cards in common, and then they each have their individual things. So I would like each of us today to draw those 3 overlapping circles. And in the very middle, where clergy, wisdom, and study is for this group, I would like you to put the word karma. Now, we may each end up with a different Venn diagram because the cards speak to us individually. There is no right or wrong here, is there? But let's see if we can understand the similarities and differences of these cards in this way. So I've given you a moment to get a pen and a piece of paper. I will reiterate. Go ahead and draw these 3 overlapping circles just like you see here. And in the very middle, where all 3 overlap, put the word karma. Label each circle 1 wheel, O fortune, 1 justice, and 1 judgment. And let's proceed from there. And you will make your own Venn diagram. And any questions, go ahead and ask. Now, let's talk about these 3 cards. And I think it's interesting to note that when we look at the archetypes of these 3 cards, we can think of mythological deities and beasts and whatever associated with them. So let's start with that. With the Wheel of Fortune, we have often seen the 3 fates associated archetypally with the Wheel of Fortune. And as we talk about these cards, because there is a little bit of a lag and I can speak faster than you can type, please, when you're talking about a card, tag it. When you're talking about karma, tag it karma. When you're talking about the cards, tag the cards. If you've got questions about the Venn diagram, Robin, and you put that up B. I'm not sure. I'm going to wait and see what you have to say here. Irene says karma is a holistic approach to healing with tarot. Very interesting. I like that. So go ahead and tag what you're talking about. Tag the card you're talking about. If you're talking about Venn diagram, tag it Venn. If you're talking about karma, tag it karma. That way we can keep these conversations going. Oh, can I put up the Venn diagram again? Yes, I most certainly can. There you go. And I'll leave it up, but do not be confused by the fact that these 3 cards are just here as a sample, because I'm not giving anything away today. All right, so in the center, so none of these words matter. Okay, you're looking at it for the shapes, and in the center goes karma. Okay, Marion in the Wheel of Fortune sees the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Why? I mean, I know that they are, but I'm curious to know why those might associate with the Wheel of Fortune. Can you elaborate on that at all? And let me move on to archetypally justice. One thing we sometimes see with justice is we see justice as illustrated as Mot, the Egyptian god of the dead. What card order again for the Venn diagram? Doesn't matter the order. Just these 3 cards, 1 for each circle, and in the middle, the word karma. So justice, Wheel of Fortune, Judgment. Doesn't really matter the order. Okay. And you may want to play with the order because of the 2 and 3 thing, you know, that we have all 3 in the middle. And you may find another thing besides karma that goes in the middle there. Love to hear it if you do. And then those connections, are there 2 cards that are connected with something? And the third one is not. I don't know. It may be that those spaces where you see the 2, we have 2 cards connected, but not a third, that those may be blank for you. We may not see that, or you may have to move the cards around to make that work. That's an individual thing for each of us. So let me, as I continue talking about the archetypes here, let me ask you, are there similarities? So we all agree that all 3 of these cards can speak to karma. Do you have similarities other than karma for just 2 where 1 is omitted? For example, I would say, well, okay, I would say for all 3 of them, you could argue that acceptance is going to be important, and maybe even closure. Maybe you could see the need for closure in all 3. I'm not sure. Okay, Jerry, what about the Lovers, the Emperor, and the Moon? We're working today with Justice, Judgment, and Wheel of Fortune, but you could do this Venn diagram with any 3 cards and have some fun with it. Okay, so let's see. Anna, Wheel of Fortune, repetitive cycles that may be learned and or observed. Right, repetitive cycles. Do we see repetitive cycles in either of these other cards? I would not so much. I would see that specific to the wheel. Okay, Lisa, for justice and judgment together, she sees truth. Very nice, very nice. Okay, Anna, justice, rebalancing chaos. Irene sees choices in all of them. Now that's interesting. That is not a word I would really associate with any of them. So I would love to hear where you're coming from for that. That's wonderful. Okay, Dina, the wheel and judgment, a higher power is involved, things beyond our control. I love that. And that's for Wheel of Fortune and Judgment. Very good. So you see how this Venn diagram thing really gets you thinking in an interesting way, right? You got to love that. So I was going back to archetypes. Egyptian goddess Mot for justice. We often see her in a deck that uses goddesses. She will often be justice. Remember that she holds scales to balance your heart against the weight of a feather. And if your heart is not weighed down by wrongdoings, it is lighter than a feather and you can move forward. Okay, justice and wheel, says Peggy, be mindful of balance. Very good, very good. Now, judgment, of course, here we see the angel Gabriel, and we also see judgment associated with the phoenix. So what about the word rebirth for this card, for judgment? Would you see that word in either of these two? Now, other things that are more specific to individual cards, justice, dealings with the legal system, dealings with attorneys, courts of law, signing of contracts, more likely with this card only than with these two. Would you agree? Wheel of Fortune, gambling, and luck, much more than you would with these two. So I would put, like in my outer wheel, in my outer circle for the Wheel of Fortune, I would put gambling and luck. Now, let us ask now, how do you see karma as we've come to understand it or not understand it or think we understand it? How do we see it in each of these cards? Wheel of Fortune, we can certainly see the idea of reincarnation. As La Morena says, the idea that reincarnation is really entrenched in this idea of karma. Well, with the Wheel of Fortune, of things happening over and over again, we see karma. We also see karma when we think about fate and destiny in this card. We see karma, right? What else? What about the idea, someone here said what goes around comes around. We really see that with the wheel too. But we also see that with justice. So with both of these cards, we could see what goes around comes around. I mean, it's more visual with the wheel, but with justice, there is a sense of justice being served, right? What goes around comes around. Now, someone mentioned balance for this card, and also for the Wheel of Fortune. You know, I have not been so clear on Wheel of Fortune as a card of balance, but it sure could be. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Irene, talking about choice goes from duality. We all live in a 3D world. But why these three cards more than any of the others for that? I mean, all of the cards can speak to that, right? Why these three cards specifically? I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm just curious. Okay. Oh, so good. Marion, judgment, resurrection. Yes, yes, yes. And Dina, judgment as hearing your calling. And that's interesting because both of those things can go back to that idea of karma. Resurrection having to do with being born into a new life, reincarnation, right? And hearing your calling can be like destiny. So that all hooks into karma too, right? Am I right? Am I wrong? What do you think? Okay, Melanie, justice and judgment include accountability to authority and enforcement of rules. Oh, very good, very good. I love this. I love this, yes. Absolutely, absolutely. I would argue that all three of these look to the past. They all ask us to look to the past. Wheel of Fortune, have you been here before? Is this something you've done a lot? Justice, getting justice to something that has happened in the past. Judgment, putting closure to the past. And when we talk about karma, we're talking about cause and effect, how the past affects the future, right? Okay, Mercedes, judgment and justice give me the feeling of accountability, balance, and healing. Sure, absolutely. Marion, I love how you know how to finish my sentences. Did I do it right? Definitely correct me. No one here has to agree with me. The only thing that qualifies me as an expert, and I am only an expert in my own practice, not yours. The only thing that qualifies me is I've been doing this for a long time, but I am not an expert on how you see spirituality. I'm not an expert on how you see tarot. So, however you see it is good. And if we don't agree, that's fine. That's fine. All right. So, let me ask you, of these three cards, let's talk about mundane interpretations. When they come up in a reading, what are the mundane interpretations? Like, for instance, Wheel of Fortune can very much be about taking a risk or gambling, going to a casino, right? Justice, going to court. Judgment, I've seen it as being about advertising, getting the word out about your business. What are some other mundane meanings you see for these cards? Go ahead and tag it. Mundane. Now, have you been writing things in your Venn diagram? And if so, what are you thinking? What are you discovering? Are there questions that you have at this point about any of these cards, about karma, about how karma shows up in any of these cards? I just noticed that Mercedes' picture is the cutest little dog. I love that. If I had a cute dog, that would be my picture too. So adorable. All right. So when we look at these three cards and we see them as karma, when they come up in a reading, how do we talk about that? Do we bring in the concept of past lives? Do we, talk about energy that you have, that you're working with? Does it ever come up to explain the unexplainable? Let's see what we've got. Marion, it's right. I hit send before I had a chance to add what the rest of my sentence was, pretty much what you said about resurrection and karma, right? Ooh, Melanie, all three as stages of resolution. The wheel as awareness, justice as negotiation, judgment as resolution. So good. Melanie, gold star. Okay, Peggy, I need more meanings for justice. Good. So very often appearance in a court of law or dealing with attorneys. Unfairness or fairness, being very concerned about fairness, being concerned about social justice. Is this really fair? Being treated unfairly, feeling like you got screwed. Looking out for the fairness of others, feeling like you're not being treated fairly. Sometimes it can be a card of weight loss, because you're trying to balance the scale, very literally. What else might you see for justice? Hey, Pamela, happy to see you. Wheel of Fortune, need to find the center, grounding through the cycle. Yeah, man, sometimes it could just be spinning. Oh, what's the center here? Sure. Dina, endings and beginnings are part of all three cards. Interesting. So we're finding in that middle part of the Venn diagram quite a few things that could potentially go there. So what does that mean? When more than one of these three cards shows up in a reading, those meanings are going to be particularly strengthened, particularly apparent in your reading. Very good. Very good. So, questions, comments, what do you think about these three cards? And how do these three cards help you understand this concept of karma? One thing that justice can say is do the right thing. And sometimes, out of our own self-interest, we do the right thing because we don't want that shit coming back to bite us in the butt later. Maybe from a very Western perspective, that is part of karma. Judgment. I often see this as looking back and judging ourselves favorably. But what if there's a situation where we did not do the right thing? Very often then we're stuck back here, Wheel of Fortune, got to do it again and do it again and do it again until you get it right. And that seems to be true within this lifetime. And many of us seem to have the belief that lifetime to lifetime, we have to do things over and over again, lifetime to lifetime, until we get it right. Now, what about that thing that we call karmic relationships? And that goes back to what Jerry was saying about the lovers, bringing the lovers into this. So the idea of the lovers as a karmic relationship. That's such a hard thing because so often these things we identify as past life relationships, the Six of Cups can sometimes come up about that too. They can be so painful. They can feel so compelling. And at the end of the day, we really need to stay away from them very often. So what do you think about that? Tag it karmic relationships. And tell us what you think about those relationships where you feel such a connection and yet it doesn't always work out in this lifetime. Now, I can see that showing up in these three cards in readings all the time. Wheel of Fortune. That's when they have been together and broken up and been together and broken up and been together and broken up, and they find themselves at my table. And, oh, no, we just broke up. I'm so miserable. And I see this card and I'm like, this is not the first time you've done this. And you're going to have to decide if you're going to want to get back together again or not. Justice. It doesn't really matter whether there's a karmic connection or not. Are you treating each other fairly? And if you can't treat each other fairly, should you be together? Judgment, put closure to that. Let that go and be done with it. Okay, Cynthia. The three cards will be for me in terms of means justice, our actions will be judged with justice when our time comes. Wheel of Fortune. Got it. Got it. Right, and that's bringing in that whole Christian Judgment Day, which you really can't help but do because archetypically that's where we're at. And so again, this is such an interesting thing because we're bringing in this dharmic concept into this Abrahamic concept. And there it is. It's so interesting. It is so cross-cultural. Marion, regarding karmic relationship. You can use mine as a case study if you want, right? Well, and I think we've all had one of those, right? Maria, karmic relationships, the devil plus the wheel. Oh yes, save us all from that. But we've all been there and we've all seen it at our table, haven't we? Melanie, karmic relationships can be a developmental stage of learning. Yes. Does not indicate health or permanence. Health of the relationship or permanence of the relationships. All relationships have an element of karma. Twin soul is a separate issue, right? If you even believe in such a thing, right? I mean, there's so many things when we talk about the language that we use to discuss these things, so many different ways of looking at them and speaking about them. Maria Elena, karmic relationship is not limited to romantic. Right. Anyone with difficult parents can tell you that. Oh, heck yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hang on. I didn't mean to do that. I meant to do that. Okay. So let's talk for a minute about spiritual lessons of these cards. What are the spiritual lessons we learn from these cards? La Morena. I will say tarot does, perhaps unpurposefully, borrow lots of Eastern and other non-Western traditions. So true. I found this out about Pixie on either Brian McCormick Core or Simon Hermit's Cave Facebook groups. Yeah, it is so interesting, right? How many things come together in tarot. So interesting. Lacey, Justice and the Wheel. Both have something hidden. Oh, so good. That with knowledge can be revealed. The veil and justice are things yet to be seen. And that's what you're trying to figure out in a court of law, right? What really happened? Who committed the crime? Was it a crime? Right? The Sphinx and the wheel, you need to answer his question to proceed. Oh, so good, so good. La Morena, thank you. I would love it if you would send that to me. Pixie was European from the US and UK and also Black Jamaican and maybe Indian, but Dev spent some time in India and was raised in Jamaica. Right, right, absolutely. But it was also a member of the Golden Dawn. So there's just so much there. And you think about that. You think about those Golden Dawn people in London trying to figure out, just as we're trying to figure out. One of the things I love about when we come together here is, we're on the shoulders of all of those, but we're doing the same thing they did. Maybe we're a little nicer to each other than Waite and Crowley were to each other, but we're trying to figure all this out. Okay. Right, La Morena, she was also Sapphic LGBTQ+. So her perspective would have been more global and full, even if Waite's wasn't fact. She also designed the pips. Waite did the majors, but she had way more influence in the minors. Yeah, true enough. La Morena, plus the cards themselves came from the Silk Road and traveling peoples like the Romani. Yeah, and also the Mamluk cards. Islam is in there too, this whole concept of cards, of these kinds of tokens. And for everything that we can see, the origin of tarot itself is as a deck of playing cards. And yet all of this wisdom is infused in it. Such an interesting thing, such a beautiful thing. So, what are our life lessons from these cards? When we study these three cards, what do we learn about life? Wheel of Fortune, no matter how hard you try to control something, we are all subject to the forces of nature. The wheel will always turn and there's nothing we can do about it. Justice, life is not fair, but we have to try to treat others and ourselves fairly. We have to strive for justice. Judgment, you have to allow closure, you have to allow endings, and you have to allow new beginnings. La Morena, and of course the Golden Dawn standardized the Kabbalistic associations of the cards, and Western astrology itself is also from Vedic Indian and Western Asian Egyptian astrology. Right. It is so interesting. And it's interesting to think too, and I don't know a lot about this, but it does feel like, if you go back historically, a lot of the very basic concepts, as above, so below, as a good example, seem to come up on their own, independently one of another, but there they were. Likewise, the idea that the four elements, or in China, 5, have metaphysical properties as well as physical ones. We don't always see them the same way. Your Native American 4 elements are not the same as your Western or esoteric 4 elements, but the idea that the 4 elements have metaphysical value and metaphysical interpretation, that's a thing, right? The idea that alphabets can have prophetic meaning as well as phonetic meaning. The idea that numbers can have prophetic meaning as well as quantitative meaning. So interesting. So interesting. All right. So let's do an exercise. Let's do an exercise. We're going to do 2 exercises. Let's do it this way. And the final one will have you shuffling these cards back into your deck. All right, just these 3 cards. When we think about studying these 3 cards, which of these cards has the lessons that you most need in your life right now, this minute? Shuffle just the 3, pull one at random. If you'd like, tell us what you got and why. Why do you think this card came up? Justice. So I spend a lot of my time thinking about what is fair. You know, how can I make sure I'm treating others fairly? Do I feel treated fairly? When my kids were little, I would be so careful about making sure that I have two, right? Two kids, that each one of them got the same, they had different needs and they had to get their needs met. But I wanted to make sure like they got the same number of presents under the tree. I care a lot about this. But I'm also thinking about how to have balance in my own life in a different way. So that's an interesting thing. Okay. Dina, it's Pi Day. It is Pi Day. Oh my gosh. It's Pi Day, and we're studying the cosmic pie, the Wheel of Fortune. So cool. I had totally forgotten that. That is so cool. Thank you, Dina. Very good. Very good. Okay, so the question you're pulling cards on, just from these three cards, of these three cards, which one is the lesson you most need to be working on right now? Tell us the card and tell us why you think that's true. Oh, and thanks for the love for my books. Really appreciate that. Oh, Dina, justice keeps my heart light as a feather. That's so good. Marion, judgment. I'm emerging into a different version of myself. So good. I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, once you've done this exercise, you can either shuffle those three cards back into the deck or take a different deck. Lisa, Wheel of Fortune, starting a new chapter of my life in a new home. Perfect, exactly. Heart light as a feather from Dina. I knew that. Karen, justice. Balance and justice is extremely important to me, not just because I'm a Libra. Good, there you go. Maria Elena, judgment. I'm in the process of rebirthing. So beautiful. So good. So good. So, Karen, I mean balance and fairness. Yeah, got it. Absolutely. Absolutely. Melanie, the wheel. Have been working with contractors. At some point, I found I just have to let them work. Problems to be fixed at times, but time will tell what will be needed. Got it. Mercedes, I get judgment. Putting off closure on one life cycle, coming to a close and a new one spiritually. Beautifully. Beautifully. So, does this exploration help you understand that these three cards, their similarities and their differences, and this sort of heady concept of karma and as it applies to our Western lives here? Is that helpful? And what do you think about that Venn diagram process? As I said, you can use that with all cards. Now, go to a full deck. Oh, Jerry, the judgment is hearing my angels communicate. Yes, yes, yes. What do you say? Very good, very good, very good. Yay. I love that. That's so good. So good. Oh, good stuff. So, final exercise. Take a full deck. I've picked up now my Light Seers Tarot because you guys know I'm in love with this deck. And just ask what you need to know about the energy of karma unfolding in your life at this time. Pull one card. And if you want to chat that in, you can chat it in, just label it karma. If it happens to be one of the three cards we're working with. If it doesn't, obviously you don't need to label it because we'll know. So what do you need to know about the energy of karma working in your life at this time? I got the King of Cups, which is really me trying to be as loving as I can about the things that piss me off. That's what, when this card comes up for me, that is very much what it is, right? Cynthia, judgment. I'm learning to connect with my angels and spiritual guides. So beautiful, so well done. I love these interpretations. So very good. So as you are sharing your readings from these two exercises, please also share any other questions you have. We are in our last 5 minutes. Please excuse me. Maria Elena, the Chariot. What do you think about that in terms of your karma in this lifetime and how that's playing out? Go ahead and let us know what you think or what questions you have about that. So, I want to let you know that all of our March classes and our April classes are up in the live tarot webinars playlist here on YouTube. So make sure you check them against your calendars and make sure that you plan to join us. I noticed that there are 44 people here and only 19 likes, so make sure you like this video. It really matters. Please do try to join me here tomorrow for your 3-card weekly reading at 9:30. Excuse me. Okay, Melanie, regarding karma, got the world reversed. The contractors in COVID have rocked my world, but I would really feel like in terms of your karma, you will find a way to bring it on back. Marion, 6 of Swords, after a lot of crap, I'm moving on to better things and have learned. Your karma is that you have learned. Remember, the 6 of Swords is all about using your logic and your knowledge. You have learned. Okay. Frank. Hey, Frank, nice to see you. The Sun, I'm in a good place. Yes, indeed. And recognizing that as part of your karma, that it is now your time to shine. Maybe you have been illuminating others and now you have to allow your own illumination. Chrissy, Ace of Cups. So your karma may be about opening your heart and healing your heart. Mercedes, High Priestess reversed. Much that has been refrained and pushed down in my life spiritually is being released for further development. You go, girl. Melanie, are all the Zooms listed? The Zooms are not listed here. They are on my website, and April's is not up yet. But the March Zoom is March 25th, 7 p.m. It's a Thursday. Clarity in every tarot card, how we use keywords, intuition, and context to interpret cards. To get that ticket, go to my website, tarotbychristiana.com. Go to events, find it, and get your ticket to join me on Zoom. It's a 2-hour class on Zoom, March 25th. Thank you. Dina, 2 of Cups reversed, child of divorce. Stayed in the healing space of love despite the divisive energy. Got it. Nice. Irene, the Sun, shining myself and bringing light on others. Beautiful. Jackie, the Tower. What do you think about that? What's up with that? Are you in a time of letting go of what no longer serves you? Sally, 6 of Cups. I'm returning to my family and my communications and bonds with them have never been stronger. That is a gift. We're going to miss you here in Florida, but that is a gift. Lacey, 5 of Swords. I always need to watch how I say things. I can be sarcastic. Yeah, I feel you. I'm the same way. People misunderstand me thinking I'm serious, so I need to always be conscious of how I say and what to whom. Zaratha Young, the Star. So what do you think about that in terms of your karma in this lifetime? Lacey, Tower is a major karma card. Sure, absolutely, absolutely. So again, I want to thank all of you for being here. I hope this sparked some creativity within you, some new ideas, some new ways of working with the cards. I hope you'll continue to play with the Venn diagram, not just for these 3 cards, but for any cards that you want to compare and contrast. If you would like to drop some shameless self-promotion here, go ahead, your YouTube channel, your Insta. Let's stay connected with each other. When you go back to watch the replay here, if you do, the live chat will go in order 24 hours after it's been up. It takes that much time to process. So make sure you look through the live tarot webinars playlist and make note of all the ones you want to be here for live. And also take a look at the ones you missed or want to review. Thank you all so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. If you have not subscribed and liked this video, please do. Okay, and thank you so much. I appreciate all of you for being part of this class. If you enjoyed this class, and I'm glad that you did, but it's because of all of us sharing. This is an opportunity for us to all share and think and figure things out. Mercedes, we have missed you so much. It's not like it should be when you're not here. So I'm not saying that to make you feel guilty. I know you've got a lot going on, but we are always delighted when you're here. Thank you all so much for being here. Jerry, so good to have you here. Jackie, Melanie, La Morena, Karen, all of you. Thank you all so much for being here. If karma were indeed a reward for past life actions, I must have been really, really good in my life to have all of you in my life now. And Dina, thank you. Yes, you can set for all the upcoming classes and meetups. You can set a reminder so you will be reminded to be here live. And we love to have you here live. For those of you watching an archive, we sure do appreciate you as well. Thank you all so very much. Have a great day. Be well. Reach out anytime. Remember, I am available for readings by phone, Skype, FaceTime, Messenger, Zoom, and also for mentorship. Wherever you are in your tarot journey, I can help you get to the next level. Thank you all so much. Be good.